Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Draft season is upon us. It's basically August, which means it's draft month here in fantasy football land. So what we're going to do is go through some of my favorite zero RB targets. If you're not a zero RB drafter, you still have to figure out who you're going to draft later in the draft. If you're a robust running back drafter, this is not the video for you, unless you're trying to look for who to fill out your RB4, RB5 spots with. But if you're somebody who, like me, likes to spend early on wide receivers, tight ends, elite quarterbacks, you're going to have to find some diamonds in the rough later in the draft, specifically in best ball, where we should be drafting as though we are right all of the time, only for best case scenario. So here's a bunch of guys, I got 6 of them for you, that we're going to be targeting later in drafts, nowhere in the first 5 rounds, some of them not even in the first 6 or 7 rounds, to help you fill out your running back room in such a way that you can really get after it in these best ball tournaments on Underdog and DraftKings and everywhere else that you may be playing this offseason. So thank you guys once again for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notifications bell. Leave me a reply down below with who your favorite zero running back targets are, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Let's get right into it with David Montgomery for the Detroit Lions, who steps into a fantastic opportunity. Yes, the Lions spent some draft capital, a lot of it, on Jahmyr Gibbs. He is going way earlier. The gap between these two, with Gibbs going like the 3rd round around pick 35, it's fluctuating from day to day. A lot of things in flux in that 3rd round, specifically with the running backs being chosen in that range, to David Montgomery, who right now is an ADP of like 77.4. That Jamal Williams role is what a lot of people are ascribing to him, and I'm no different. However, the 262 carries, 1,066 yards, and 17 touchdowns that were vacated by Jamal Williams last season, in this offseason, going away, and David Montgomery, we think, stepping into that role. Now, look, I'm not going to project 17 touchdowns for David Montgomery. That would be a fool's errand in this spot. However, if he is in that, 60-40 role, if he is the short yardage back, which we fully expect him to be, I don't think that this coaching staff really wants to go 80-20 with a running back. They're very much running back by committee there, and they're very much about do your job. I expect Gibbs to be the guy who comes in and plays the role that we thought DeAndre Swift was going to play in previous years, which means that like maybe he'll see more snaps, but I think it's going to be very, very close to a 50-50 split between these two guys, with Dave Montgomery taking the short yardage stuff. Now, yes, Williams was a little bit on the lucky side last year that a lot of Detroit wide receivers got tackled on like the 2-yard line, like a lot, which I don't expect to happen year over year. There's not a lot of stickiness with that. However, there is a lot of stickiness to inside the 5 carries, and Dave Montgomery should be getting his Lions share of those this year. Pun maybe intended. Rashad White steps into a higher volume role this season as well. Fournette is not there. We don't know if they're going to sign anybody, but all signs point to them not right now. There's still a bunch of running backs on the market, Leonard Fournette being one of them, Ezekiel Elliott still out there, Dalvin Cook, who we'll get to a little bit later, and many others, Kareem Hunt. Plenty of guys that have a history of being solid running backs in the league, just not being signed by teams for one reason or another. That seems to be a topic for a whole different video. But Rashad White has the exact skill set that we're looking for when it comes to drafting best ball fantasy running backs, specifically on DraftKings where it's full PPR, but also on Underdog where it's half PPR, just because he's going to get a ton of work. 189 carries and 83 targets were vacated. Right now, Rashad White's ADP is sitting around 82. That's just too low. You're out of the running back dead zone. You've drafted your first 5, 6, 7 guys on your team, and here's Rashad White right behind David Montgomery. It's hard to get both of them on your team, but if you were to go 0 RB and snap up both of them, you would have a very good start to your running back room. If you went late, it's more likely that you're only going to get one, and White is the more voluminous guy in the passing game. If you are on DraftKings, I'd probably prefer White to Montgomery. If you're playing on a more touchdown heavy scoring system, I would probably prefer Montgomery to White. Better offense, probably more opportunities in the red zone and inside the 5-yard line, but White is a very solid running back in his own right. Big playability, as we saw late in the season last year, with multiple plays, where he looked really spry for a young guy. 35-yard gain on the ground, 29-yard gain on the ground here, 6 targets, 5 targets against Carolina, 4 against Arizona, and that was with Fournette still there in Tampa Bay. He's not there now. Obviously, Tom Brady gone, being replaced by Baker Mayfield. I'm assuming he's going to beat out Trask. He's just a better player than Trask is. So Rashad White is going to step into that number 1 role this year, and there's a ton of value here. And look, running backs get pushed down boards. Everybody wants the 350 touch guy, but those guys don't really exist anymore. If he was to end this season with somewhere closer to, let's say, opportunities, right? Not targets. If he was to get 250 to 275 opportunities, 175 to 200 carries, 75 to 90 targets, that would be way more than enough to pay off on this currently low 82 ADP. Love Rashad White at the place that he is being drafted right now. Damien Harris is being overlooked in your drafts. Currently has an ADP of 117. This seems to be the exact same spot that we were drafting Devin Singletary last season. Everybody was drafting James Cook ahead of Singletary last season. We were on Devin Singletary. This season, Cook is going like 25 picks higher on ADP. Now, I like James Cook as a running back. He looks really, really good. He is also much better than Harris in the passing game. I'm not expecting much out of Damien Harris at all through the air. However, Josh Allen is not the type of guy to check down. He is going to throw the ball downfield. They gave him another weapon theoretically on the outside with Kincaid, the rookie tight end who doesn't seem to be likely to play inline tight end at all. This team's going to move the football. They're going to get into the red zone a lot. They're going to get inside the 5-yard line a lot. And when they get in there, I kind of feel like Damien Harris is going to get at least 75% of the snaps between him and James Cook once this team gets inside the 5-yard line. And that's where the upside is. That's where the touchdowns lie, because the Bills are not going to throw the ball a ton to their running backs. I think they had a total of like 65 or 70 throws, including the playoffs last season, to their running backs. This is not a team that checks down. This is not a team that runs a lot of plays for them. Yes, Cook will have some receiving games, 4 or 5 targets, but it's not going to be an every week thing. And Damien Harris, in my opinion, is going to be the guy to soak up an awful lot of the short yardage work and a whole lot of opportunities at touchdowns. Yes, I know that he could get vultured, but again, it's pick 117. You're not hanging your hat on him. He's somebody you are theoretically drafting, not as your RB1 or your RB2, but in best ball as your RB3, your RB4, somebody that you are picking later in drafts to give you an opportunity at somebody to carry you along to bolster those lineups that are wide receiver strong, wide receiver heavy. If you're like me and you're a hero running back drafter, if you're a running back and chill, bell cow and chill type drafter, where you take one of those stud guys early, then fill in your wide receiver, elite tight end, elite quarterback, and you're looking for guys later who could jump into really big roles, Damien Harris fits that. Last season, we were heavy. I think I had like 65% of Jamal Williams by the end of last season's drafts. It was ridiculous. I was very nervous about it. I was drafting him as a 40% guy. He turned out to be way more than that. And sometimes you can get that best case scenario. Best case scenario for Damien Harris is like a 12 touchdown season. In my opinion, that's the top 5% of his possible outcomes based on the fact that of where he plays, the offense that he's on, and the role that I'm projecting for him in that offense, which is not going to be 20 carries a game. You might get 8 or 10, but 2 or 3 of those could come inside the 5 more weeks than not. Brian Robinson Jr., I'm not trying to be, I don't even know how to put this. Like, he didn't get shot this offseason. Last season, that was something that was definitely going to hamper him, as he got shot in preseason and he made a miraculous recovery, a speedy recovery, but was never really himself. Now, as the season wore on, he kept getting better. He was not an efficient running back by any means last season. That's just not what he was, right? So like on the year, he averaged like 3.9 yards per carry, 66.4 yards per game, only had 2 touchdowns on a bad offense. Currently, Antonio Gibson's being drafted ahead of him, but no signs so far in camp are showing that Antonio Gibson is going to be anything more than a 40% guy, meaning that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be 60% or more of the snaps and touches for the Washington Commanders at pick 111.4. I feel like his role is solidified in this offense. I feel like he's going to be a lot more explosive this year than he was last season because of the fact that he didn't get shot this preseason. So, you know, it's like baby steps, right? This offense does look like it could take a step forward this season, another year of maturity, how it looks like he could be a solid quarterback, somebody that was highly touted all through his collegiate career, then slid in the draft. He gets to take the reins over here. We're hoping that this offense can be somewhat efficient, though they will play some tough defenses in the Giants, in the Eagles, teams that are in their division. But for where he's being drafted, you're getting an awful lot of value when it comes to what you're getting, the touchdown upside, the big play upside, as well as a season where he should be way more efficient this year based on health alone than he was last year. Let's go to Underdog Fantasy, because they have the hires and lowers, the overs and unders for season long. So you can bet these for a standard, you can bet them for insured. I'm going to take the over on 3 of the guys I've already mentioned. Over 775 rushing yards for Brian Robinson, over 780 rushing yards for Rashad White, and over 550 rushing yards for Damien Harris. Let's go with a standard here. Let's play this for $50. Let's submit that. Pays $300. We'll check back in on this in like January. But there it is. If you guys did not have an account, if you wanted to play best ball drafts, the biggest tournaments that are out there, the Best Ball Mania, is a $15 million prize pool. Absolutely insane. You can use that promo code ALSMIZZLE. That's ALSMIZZLE, all one word. Get yourself a deposit bonus up to $100 on your first deposit to the site. You can play these pick'ems where they have them for every week, every sport, every game, every night, as well as the season-long ones that they've just implemented for this year. And you got to get in on the best ball tournaments. The puppy, if you're a big high roller, you play in the Mastiff, or if you want to play the $25 tournament to try and get yourself $3 million up top, I would go over to Underdog Fantasy and check them out. Be sure that you use my promo code ALSMIZZLE on your first deposit to get the most bang for your buck. Jarek McKinnon is entirely too cheap, even on DraftKings where it's full PPR. On Underdog Fantasy, his ADP is 123.7. Now, look, you're not looking to go get a ton of usage out of him. But again, we're drafting for best case scenario. We're drafting for spike weeks. We saw one right here. Not a ton of touches for him, but 6 targets, 8 targets, 9 targets, 59 total targets from week 9 through the Super Bowl last season for Jarek McKinnon. Carved out a very impressive role on this offense. The age, yes, he is on the wrong side of 30 years old. He is not a young running back. They do have Pacheco in front of him, who may start camp on the PUP list, but like that's not gonna, they can take him off anytime they want. That's not why I'm here on Jarek McKinnon. I believe his ADP on DraftKings is like half a round in front of it. It's like 116, which seems entirely too low in the range where you're drafting your RB4, right? Someone you're picking for maybe a big week. If you have Bengals on your team, you get a lot of week 17 equity with the Bengals Chiefs stack late. You can get them for cheap going with him, a late tight end, or if you picked Higgins in the second round, or you got Jamar Chase. If you have a Bengals stack, or just you wanted to use them as a secondary one-off play for week 17, Jarek McKinnon does give you that very, very cheap at his price point. And one last play, another swing for the fences, spike week home run type play is Devin A-Chain. He is a monster. Like, this kid can do, he's tiny. He's a small monster, right? He's not a big monster. He's not like a Derrick Henry sized monster. He's a small monster, but like scary nonetheless to opposing defenses with his big playability. And in this offense where you're not going to be able to key on him, and you know that Coach Mike he's going to scheme up so many amazing ways to get him the ball into space. We saw him do it with Mostert last year. We saw him do it with Jeff Wilson Jr. Now he's got a brand new toy that he handpicked himself to try and take a little bit of pressure off of Tyreek Hill, to take a little bit of pressure off of Jalen Waddle, and to allow Tua someone to let the ball go to in passing down situations where Mostert isn't all that great and Jeff Wilson Jr. not all that great in the passing game either. This kid has big playability. Again, a spike week play with an ADP of 117. Love the situation, love where he is. It's also a bet that if you're picking him at 117, I think that this ADP could spike a lot higher in the next 7 to 10 days. I'm recording this. It is the 29th of July. My bet here, and my bet for drafting him the last few weeks, has been that Dalvin Cook is not going to sign in Miami. Now, he still may. If he signs in Miami, A-Chain's ADP either stays where it is or goes down a little bit. Dalvin Cook's ADP is going to go up. That's why I did not include him in this video. People are loading up on him. But if he goes to the New York Jets, he doesn't go to Miami. If he signs in Dallas, which is a possibility, which he just spoke about today on NFL Live, A-Chain's ADP is not going to stay where it is right now because his role will be a little bit more carved out. I'm not expecting 20 touches a game from him. When we draft somebody like him or McKinnon, we're hoping for 10 to 12 touches with about 40 to 50% of them coming in the passing game, which is where there is an awful lot of upside for us to get those spike weeks, specifically in DraftKings scoring system. A little bit less so on Underdog, where it's 0.5 PPR and no bonuses, opposed to DraftKings where there are those bonuses as well as full PPR. But that's the list. That's the guys that we got for you. If you're looking for late running backs, if you're drafting 0 RB or hero RB, this is the list for you. I appreciate you guys being here. Drop a like on the video. Look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.